Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at a 2028 presidential election matchup between Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro and Republican Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, if you didn't know, Josh Shapiro is the incumbent Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. He was first elected in 2022 and he is running for re-election as governor in 2026. When he was elected in 2022, he won by a huge margin. He won by nearly 15 percentage points in a state that Joe Biden had won by only 1% back in 2020, and Trump won by just under 2% in 2024. Pennsylvania is a key swing state, yet Josh Shapiro, he was not an incumbent and he won by nearly 15 points in the 2022 governor election. And Josh Shapiro has a further history of overperforming in the Keystone State. Back in 2016, Shapiro was elected as the Pennsylvania Attorney General, even though Hillary Clinton lost on the same ballot in Pennsylvania. In 2020, Josh Shapiro was re-elected as Attorney General of Pennsylvania by well over 4 percentage points, while on the same ballot, Joe Biden only carried Pennsylvania by 1 percentage point. So let's go ahead and get started on this map. Now we're going to go ahead and fill out these safe states for both parties. The safe states are going to be states that will be won by at least 10 percentage points. The likely states will be states that will be won by 5 to 10 percentage points. And the lean states are going to be states that will be won by 1 through 5 percentage points, and the tilt states are going to be states that are going to be won by less than 1 percentage point. Now, for the Democrats, they have a map here where I think they're going to start off with 177 safe electoral votes, and for the Republicans, they will start off with a somewhat of a similar number, slightly less. I think the Republicans are going to start off with around 161 safe electoral votes. And now moving on to the likely states, I think New Mexico, Josh Shapiro would improve on Kamala Harris's 6-point margin here. I think Shapiro wins by around 8 percentage points, but I don't think he quite gets to double digits, which would make New Mexico a safe state. So I think Shapiro carries New Mexico by a likely margin. And in Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, Kamala Harris won here by over 4 points. I think Shapiro can clear the 5-point hurdle, making Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District in the likely Democratic column. And similar story in the state of Minnesota. Harris won here by 4 points. I think Shapiro can win here by over 5 percentage points. In the state of New Jersey, this is a state that Biden won by 16 percentage points, but it saw a huge swing to the right in 2024 when Harris only won New Jersey by 6 points. I do think New Jersey reverts somewhat back towards the Democrats, not by as much as Biden won in 2020, but an improvement on Harris's 2024 margin. I think Shapiro wins New Jersey by anywhere from 8 to 10 percentage points. And then in the state of Virginia, this is a state that Joe Biden won by 10 points and Kamala Harris won by 6 points. I think Shapiro would do quite well in Virginia. He has a very moderate reputation, and Virginia loves to elect moderate Democrats. I think Shapiro wins here by at least 8 percentage points, if not more. And in the state of New Hampshire, Kamala Harris won here by less than 3 percentage points, but Biden did win here by over 7. I don't see Shapiro having a very hard time winning here by at least 5 percentage points. I think New Hampshire would be likely Democratic, and a similar story here in Maine's at-large electoral votes, which gets Shapiro to 226 electoral votes, the same number of electoral votes that Kamala Harris won in 2024. Now, on the Republican side, I think J.D. Vance wins Texas by a likely margin. Even though Texas saw a huge swing towards Republicans in 2024, I do think Texas will somewhat revert It will not be as close as it was in 2020 when Biden only lost Texas by 5.5 points. But I do think that Shapiro improves on Kamala Harris's margins. I think JD Vance wins Texas by high single digits against Josh Shapiro. And something to note is that Shapiro and Vance are both Midwesterners. J.D. Vance was elected to the U.S. Senate from Ohio in 2022, and Josh Shapiro is obviously currently serving as governor of Pennsylvania. So I think they've both got Midwestern appeal, but I think Shapiro's Midwestern appeal is greater, judging by how much he's won by. Shapiro has always overperformed Democrats in Pennsylvania, and in 2022, obviously, he won in a landslide. Vance, however, he has underperformed Republicans in 2022 in a red-leaning year. Vance only won Ohio by 6 points, even though Trump carried Ohio by 8 points in 2020 and 11 points in 2024. So Vance, in the limited data that we do have on Vance, he is an underperformer, and Shapiro is a huge overperformer. So I think that Shapiro will have a larger Midwestern appeal compared to JD Vance. So do keep that in mind. And I do think that JD Vance is going to have a tougher time than Donald Trump on turning out low rural voters and voters that are lower propensity. There are a certain amount of voters that Donald Trump and only Donald Trump is really able to turn out for Republicans. These are voters that don't turn out for midterm elections or special elections or off-year elections, but when Trump is on the ballot, they do turn out. I don't think that JD Vance is going to be able to turn out many of these voters. And so I think he will suffer a penalty in rural areas, which is why I think in Maine's 2nd congressional district, he will only win here by a lean margin rather than a likely margin. Now, going on over to JD Vance's home state of Ohio, I do think that Vance wins here by high single digits. I don't think he can match Trump's 2024 margin where Trump won Ohio by 11 points, but I do think that Vance still does fairly well and carries Ohio by a likely margin, close to a safe margin, and that does get Vance to 219 electoral votes. And now we have the 7 remaining core swing states that decided the 2024 election. Now, in the state of Pennsylvania, this is Josh Shapiro's home state. I think he wins Pennsylvania pretty easily, somewhere around 3 to 4 percentage points. So not quite a likely margin, but a pretty healthy lean margin. And this is going to be the first flip of the night compared to 2024. Now, in the state of Arizona, Trump won here by 5.5 percentage points after Joe Biden narrowly carried Arizona in 2020. Immigration was a huge issue in Arizona in 2024, and I think that although Shapiro will advance or he will improve on Kamala Harris's margins in Arizona, I don't think Shapiro can quite flip Arizona in 2028. I think Arizona will go to JD Vance by a lean margin. Now, going on over to the state of Wisconsin, Trump only won here by less than 1 percentage point of the 7 core swing states. Trump had his smallest margin of victory in the state of Wisconsin. I think that Shapiro can flip Wisconsin. Remember, down ballot, Wisconsin did re-elect their Democratic senator in 2024, and I think Shapiro can take back Wisconsin for the Democrats. Now, going on over to the state of Nevada, this is a state that Democrats won in from 2008 all the way through 2020, and then Donald Trump finally flipped it for the first time since 2004 for the Republicans when George W. Bush won it back in 2004. And Trump did win here by around 2.5 percentage points, I believe. And I think Nevada long term is trending towards the Republicans. I think JD Vance narrowly carries the state of Nevada by a tilt margin. Now that does leave 3 states: Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia. Now you do need 270 electoral votes to be elected president. So if Josh Shapiro wins any one of these 3 states, he does get to that magic 270 number. Now in the state of North Carolina, Trump won here by just over 3 percentage points. But do keep in mind that although the nation as a whole swung 6 points to the right from 2020 to 2024, North Carolina only swung 2 points to the right. So relative to the nation, it did trend to the left. And I do believe that North Carolina will be more competitive on the presidential level in 2028. However, I do think that North Carolina Republicans still do have a slight edge, and I think J.D. Vance would narrowly carry the state of North Carolina by probably around 1 percentage point or maybe a little bit more, and that does get J.D. Vance to 252 electoral votes. Now, in the state of Michigan, this is a state where in 2024, Kamala Harris lost here by around 1.5 percentage points. And a significant part of the reason why she lost was because she was closely tied with the Biden administration, and the Arab American community in Michigan was very dissatisfied with Biden's handling of the war in Gaza, and that certainly hurt Harris in the state of Michigan. Now, a lot of those voters did flip to Trump, and a lot of those voters simply didn't vote, or they voted third party in 2024. Now, I don't imagine those voters are very happy with the Trump-Vance administration either on the Gaza issue. However, Josh Shapiro is a pro-Israel candidate, and although he is not as pro-Israel as some other Democrats, he is still pro-Israel, and I do think that would hurt him in the state of Michigan. I think J.D. Vance would very narrowly carry the state of Michigan due to those reasons. And so that brings Vance to 267 electoral votes. And now the election comes down to the state of Georgia. Now, Georgia, even though it flipped back to Trump in 2024, keep in mind this is a state that relative to the nation, it has consistently trended to the left for well over a decade now. In 2024, Georgia voted it voted less than a point to the right of the nation, and I imagine in 2028 it will likely vote around 2, maybe 3 points to the left of the nation, and I do think that Josh Shapiro would narrowly beat J.D. Vance in the popular vote, so I think Shapiro would likely carry Georgia by around 2 percentage points or so. I think Shapiro would do very well in the Atlanta suburbs, and I think that J.D. Vance would fail to turn out rural voters in Georgia at the same rates that Trump was able to. So I do think that J.D. Vance would lose to Josh Shapiro. I think Shapiro would beat Vance 271 electoral votes to Vance's 267. So if you guys did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so that you don't miss a future upload. Feel free to comment any suggestions that you have or any of your thoughts, and I will see you all in the next video.